Hello, it's Nick the CD Man, Nick S, sorry, and this is another video in my series of number one albums since 1970. It's going to be a regular thing on Monday mornings for now. A new year every Monday morning. Excuse me, and now we're ready for 1971. We have, I believe it was 11 albums to talk about today for 1971, and let's start. Leading off 1971 with the number one album on January 2nd, it was a George Harrison album from Apple Records, and it featured the number one single, double-sided number one single, all those years ago, and Isn't It a Pity? And it also featured the top 10 single, What Is Life? We have George Harrison and All Things Must Pass. The pressing I have is from 2021, the 2021 remix, and I will definitely tell you that it's an improvement over the previous mixes. Definitely. Number one the week of February 20th, 1971 was what Billboard ranked as the number one album of the year. And that was the soundtrack, that was the various artists collection of Jesus Christ Superstar, Andrew Lloyd Webber's collection. Here it is right here. This is the 2021 pressing on the Verve Universal Music Company label, Decca label as well. 3 singles from the album made the Billboard Pop Singles chart. 2 by Yvonne Elliman, Everything's Alright, and the top 40 I Don't Know How to Love Him, and the long-running Murray Head and the Trinidad Singers Superstar, which actually made the year-end's top 40 despite not making the top 10. Anyway, great stuff. Number one in the week of February 27th, 1971 was an album released posthumously. We're talking about Janis Joplin and her classic Pearl. See it right here. The singles from the album included, they're listed in the album. This is actually, give me a second. This is actually a 1999 pressing. Also included in her Box of Pearls box set, which I also own, but I wanted the album loosely and separately. Singles for the album were Cry Baby, released in charting in May of 1971, going to number 42. Me and Bobby McGee, which was a debut single, going to number 1. And holding the position for 2 weeks, starting in January 1971, when it debuted in the charts. And in September 71, Get It While You Can, went to number 78, staying on the charts for 2 weeks. The album also featured the classic Mercedes-Benz, as well as, let me see, I'm going to put the booklet back first, as well as Move Over, Half Moon, Buried Alive in the Blues, Trust Me, Get It While You Can, and others. One of my favorite tracks is one of the bonus tracks, a live recording of Tell Mama. The week of May 18th saw the only weekend number one for Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young's second number one album following Deja Vu in 1970, a live recording called Four-Way Street. Now the album, as far as my knowledge, has only been released once on CD, back in 1992, and featured extra tracks, which I believe were King Midas in Reverse, Laughing, Black, and Black Queen. There were no singles from this album on the Billboard Hot 100 as it was a live album, but popular tracks in the album that you might know from their studio versions are Teach Your Children, Graham Nash's Chicago, Stephen Stills' Love the One You're With, Neil Young's The Loner, Cinnamon Girl, and Down by the River in a medley, their classic Ohio, and a couple of classic album cuts, Long Time Gone, Southern Man, Carry On, and the B-side, Find the Cost of Freedom, which is actually its first time on an album. Great stuff indeed. Next up, we go to May 22nd, 1971, and the Rolling Stones did their first number one album in the 1970s with the classic Sticky Fingers. This is the album with a zipper. Obviously, the pressing I have is from get the year on here. Okay, quickly get the year on here. Hold on. The year was, what was it? Tell me the year. 2009. The album featured 2 top 40 records. The number 1 smash Brown Sugar and the top 10 Wild Horses. Plus classics like Sway, Can't You Hear Me Knockin', You Gotta Move, Bitch, Sister Morphine, Dead Flowers, Moonlight Mile, and I Got the Blues. Classic stuff indeed. One of my favorite Rolling Stones albums. Next up, from June 19th, 1971, was the longest running number one album of 1971 by female singer-songwriter Carole King. I'm talking about the classic Tapestry. This album was from 1999, and I purchased this album at Sam Goody's in White Plains, New York, while I was a Sam Goody employee at the other store in Rye. The album featured two double-sided singles, It's Too Late and I Feel the Earth Move, a number one smash for 5 weeks in the summer, and So Far Away, backed with Smackwater Jack. It also features the classics Beautiful, Where We Yonder, You Got a Friend, Where You Lead, Wish Love Me Tomorrow, and Tapestry. Great stuff. Probably one of the best singer-songwriter albums of the 1970s. Number one the week of October 2nd, 1971, was the first of two number one albums in the 1970s and 3 overall for Rod Stewart. The only one on Mercury Records to go to number one, and that was because of the double-sided single that went to number one for 5 weeks, Maggie May and Reason to Believe. There was also a top 40 hit in I Know I'm Losing You, and classic tracks like Every Picture Tells a Story, the title cut, Mandolin Wind. Great stuff. The pressing I have is from, actually doesn't say, but it's from the Rod Stewart Remasters series on the Universal label. Number one the week of October 30th, 1971, was the first of 3 number one albums for the late, great John Lennon. John's first number one album was Imagine, and the album had one single, the number 3 peaking Imagine, which at the time was a very high debut in the Hot 100, debuting at number 20, first week out. A further single, Jealous Sky, was released when John Lennon released Imagine John Lennon in 1988. It made the Hot 100, but not very high. Other classic tracks include Crippled Inside, It's So Hard, I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, Mama, I Don't Want to Die, Give Me Some Truth, All My Love, How Do You Sleep, How, and Oh Yoko. The pressing I have is, of course, the 2010 pressing for the Signature series. There was also, I believe, a newly remastered version for the Lennon remixes, but I have the double album for that, not the single. Next up, the week of November 6th, 1971, 3 days before my friend Dan was born. A soundtrack, the only one of 1971 to go to number one. Isaac Hayes' soundtrack to the blaxploitation movie starring Richard Roundtree called Shaft. This is the 2009 pressing, which features as a bonus track Thief of Shaft 2009 mix. 2 singles from this album. Excuse me. Were released. The number one smash, Thief of Shaft, and the top 20 smash, Do Your Thing, which appears on the album in a almost 20-minute version. November 13th, 1971, the number one album was Santana III by Santana. Let's see right there, Santana III. The album was released the version I have was 1998's version, which features 3 bonus tracks, Batuka, live at the film Jungle Strut, and Gumbo, all live at the Fillmore East, July 4th, 1971. Singles from the album included the top 20 smash Everybody's Everything, and the top 40 single No One to Depend On, which was sampled in the 1990 hit Mentirosa by Latin rapper Mellow Man Ace. Other classic tracks in the album include Batuka, Toussaint La Overture, Jungle Strut, Everything's Coming Our Way, which American Top 40 played as their featured track for the number one album. Great stuff indeed. It's not my favorite Santana album as Abraxas is, but it's pretty damn close. The last number one album of 1971 was the only number one album to be released by Sly and the Family Stone. That's Sly Stewart, Sylvester Stewart, and his band, The Family Stone. They'd hit number one before several times, but they'd not hit number one on the albums chart. They did it with the album on December 18th, called There's a Riot Going On. Classic album here. The album was released in 2007, the pressing I have. And the singles from the album include the number one Family Affair, plus 2 other lower charting singles, You Caught Me Smiling and Running Away, which I believe went to the top 30. Great stuff. And the version I have includes a single version of Running Away, an instrumental My Gorilla Is My Butler, an instrumental Do You Know What, and an instrumental That's Pretty Clean. Great, great, great stuff indeed. Probably, in fact, even definitely Sly's best album as a original album. So that wraps up the number one albums of 1971. Tune in next Monday, as every Monday we will have the top albums, number one albums for each year in the Billboard 200 albums chart. Next week, join us on Monday for 1972. This is Nick S., the CD Man, signing off. If you like this video, subscribe, hit the dingy to get notified, and hit the like button. Thank you. Have a great day and enjoy your physical media.